Welcome to the Builders Code Show, and what a week it's been. So much to cover off. I'm with my co-host, Jess. How you doing, Jess?
Yeah, really well. Hi, everyone. We had an absolutely awesome weekend in Bali.
Incredible.
Amazing people, amazing food. The hotel was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm just feeling like refreshed, revived, and really happy.
Yeah, and kid-free.
And well, kid-free, yeah,
which
indeed.
Which is a rare thing. And
I think, it was really, really good. The whole weekend was so peaceful. I think the only thing that was probably a little bit more hostile was your encounter with a monkey.
Uluwatu, yeah. I had my brand new Oakleys that I bought at duty free on the way to Bali stolen by a freaking monkey.
Yeah.
Can you believe it? The audacity. But that was fascinating, man. Normally you go to a holy temple, which is what it was, right? The Uluwatu temple. And we thought we were going to the surf spa. I want to go check the waves. And we ended up at this temple. It didn't feel very holy. Like you walk into those big cathedrals in Europe, it's got that sort of feel and that vibe. This place was just like a badly run construction site. Like it looked pretty run down. Monkeys everywhere. And the guy said, hey, the taxi driver said, be careful with your shades, your sunglasses. They're going to try and take your glass. I'm like, yeah, it's fine. I was holding them in my hand. This thing came up behind me and just ripped them. I just felt this thing rip out of my hands.
Yeah.
And I went after the monkey and he got aggressive, man. Like he really came at me.
Yes. And then another one came at you too, like in...
Two there, swiping, yeah. Like it's like you get into a street fight with these freaking monkeys. And I grew up with monkeys in South Africa. They weren't that hostile. And these ones were hostile at a supposed holy place.
Yeah.
Right. It got me thinking, you know, like the classic Viktor Frankl, where human beings like to assign meaning to things that happen.
Yeah.
Like maybe the gods at Uluwatu were trying to say to me, hey, stop being such a materialistic prick. You've got two pairs of sunglasses. I didn't need another one. And they took them off me through the aggressive monkey.
Yeah, maybe.
Anyway, that's the meaning I'm assigning to it. And we're just going to keep moving. So what are we talking about today?
So today we're going to focus a little bit, zoom into time management, because I think that's quite relevant right now. So maybe we can just kick off with, what's time management? Why is it so important in this industry?
Yeah, time management, I don't like that term, right? It's more about self-management. And it's interesting, I'm speaking to a lot of people, not only builders, just everyone out there, right? Family, friends, people in, that are working in the corporate world. It's like everyone, and tell me what you think if this is relevant to you, but everyone seems to be busier than ever before, even though we have more access to systems and technology than ever before. And a lot of the things like ChatGPT, it's amazing. We've got like GPS tracking apps, and there's things that make our life so much easier, but we feel busier than ever. And it's like we're having to work harder and harder just to stay in the same place, just to keep up to date with all the changes. And the frightening thing is the world's changing quicker and quicker. There's no slowing down. So, what's the solution? How do you get on top of things? How do you get on the front foot? And more importantly, how do you not feel stressed and overwhelmed, which is what I'm hearing from a lot of people.
Do you want to hear about my, maybe top quick tips?
Well, I was about to ask, what do you do to manage yourself and your time?
Top of my head, I'd probably say preparing and planning. I think the more you plan ahead, the more you manage to fit in one day. And I think you and I, we do that a lot, right? Whether we plan for the day, we plan for the week, we plan for the 12 weeks.
Yes.
So that's probably one top of my head. Second one is probably leveraging tools and people. We use Upwork tools. ChatGPT or AI in general has just been a game changer, to be honest.
Yeah.
And then maybe the third thing I'd say is a bit of multitasking. As you know, like when I drive or when I walk the dog, I listen to some audiobooks. And I'm really actually quite proud because in the last 6 months, I listened to 6 audiobooks. So it's like one book per month. So quite happy with that achievement also.
Absolutely.
So that's probably...
That, not to nitpick, but... it's not multitasking, because if you're going to do 2 tasks at the same time, you're splitting your focus. That's not going to help. So single-handling, if you've got 6 things to do the first one, ideally the most difficult one, and we'll get to eating that frog in a sec, and then move on to the next one. I think what you're talking about there is layering. So if you're driving from here to there, whilst you're driving, you can listen to an audiobook. So you transporting yourself whilst educating yourself. So there's 2 things you're doing. Plus you could... you could take it further. You could, instead of driving there, run there. So you're exercising, getting from A to B, plus listening to an audiobook. So there's 3 levels of layering. And layering is a very powerful thing. But I love the planning thing that you're talking about. So planning your weeks and your days, and that is really a fundamental of time management or self-management, right? Is if you're not already doing it, plan your weeks in advance, ideally on the weekend before the week ahead, and also your days in advance. Write out a to-do list, highlight the top 6 dollar productive, urgent and important tasks, and then pick the most difficult one and do that one first. But the reality is, this is the point I really want to make, is, and when I first heard this, it sounded like, it sounded a bit bizarre, but the reality is, and I found this to be true now, you will never, ever have enough time to get everything done that you want to do, ever. Someone once said to me, even if you were like a pharaoh in ancient Egypt and you had 1,000 free laborers, right, you still would not get everything done that you want to get done. So what's the solution? Prioritizing.
Yeah.
You've got to prioritize, which means you've got to say no, which means you've got to understand what is more important than not. Yeah. Sorry, you're going to say.
I was going to say something, and I read this in a book saying we never have enough time to do the things we want, etc. Yeah. But think of the scenario that if tomorrow all of a sudden, like one of the pipes was to burst and we were flooded, we would make time to make sure that we call the plumber and fix it, etc. Right? So I think it's really about making the time for the things that are really important, which comes back to your prioritization.
Yeah.
Also, right?
What's urgent and important, like your pipe exploding, all of a sudden that moves right to the top of your priority list. And we've all had that happen. The phone rings, your kid's sick, you've got to fetch them from school, you drop everything. So that happens. Yeah. But planning in advance and recognizing what those urgent and important things are each week, each day, and then executing on them one at a time, not trying to do... I've seen guys trying to do multiple things. I've seen someone, do one bit of a task and then the phone rings and then they start on something else. Then they see an email, then they do another thing. At the end of the day, they've got 5 tasks that are all incomplete. They haven't finished one and they've done nothing and they feel like they've been really busy but haven't accomplished anything. Yeah. Whereas if you just pick one and you finish it, even if it takes you an hour and a half or 2 hours of painstaking, focused effort, then at least you've done that one thing and you can move on to the next one.
For our listeners out there, let's go through a bit of a list of what you think are some of the quickest and easiest things that builders can do to self-manage themselves better.
I love it. And I've been thinking about this a lot because of the conversations I'm having. And everyone's just stuck. When you meet someone you haven't seen for a while, hey, how's it going? Busy. It's just cliche these days, right? And it's always been a cliche, but it is a bigger thing for most people now than ever before for the reasons you've already explained. So let's look at some real strategies, things you can do that'll free up time quickly and give you the result you want. So sales process, number one, the biggest inefficiency in this industry is your sales, speaking to the wrong people. And this comes back to prioritizing the people that you speak to. So you don't want to deal with tire kickers. You don't want people that are going to waste your time. So what's the quickest and easiest way to deal with that? It's our 6-step sales process. I haven't got time to go into the whole thing. I could spend a whole day going through the nuance and the specifics of that process, but you can get the full system and all the documentation in my book, $1 Million Builder, right? It's freely available on the website, builderscoach.com, or you can email us info@builderscoach.com.au and we'll send you a free copy. It's on Audible, on Amazon. We'll send you a free paperback copy if you want one. Just email us direct. But that sales process does it. And then within that, the outcome objective of the sales process is to get people to pay you for a quote or for a preliminary agreement, which is just helping them through the pre-construction phase with design, with engineering and all the other documentation that's required. And that's really a value add. And from my experience, a builder getting involved as early as possible in the pre-construction phase is the single most important thing anyone who's looking to build can do right now. All right, for a number of reasons. Getting the numbers right has always been an issue. There's never been an accurate quote done ever, right, on this planet. Yeah. But right now, with all the freaking money printing and all the BS and the 40% inflation in less than 4 years and blah, 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 goes on and on, it's never been more of an issue. And there's so many people right now that are going to architects, getting their engineering done. Finally, they get a quote from the builders, and it's way beyond what they not only want to spend, but can spend. So it's 12 months of effort, and all their dreams come crashing down. And it's sad to see. But you getting involved as a builder at the concept stage and looking at the structure of the building, at the footprint of the building, and then collaborating with the client based on their budget and what they want and what they don't want, and the architect, you can get that budget to fit the expectations, basically, and the reality of what it's going to cost. So that is very powerful. And really what that does as well, ultimately, is it leads to a one-horse race or a negotiated tender. Because if you're working with someone early on and you nurturing the relationship and you're adding value, right, value management, then why would they, at the end of that process, decide, hey, I'm going to go speak to another builder, right? So it's game changer. It really is. Only 3 or 4 game changers in our coaching program, and this is one of them, and why I'm mentioning it first. And you can set that entire sales process up within 2 weeks. All right. So if you want the entire sales process, email us, info@builderscoach.com.au. I'll send it over to you. It's also in the book, but happy to help. If you want to talk about getting your sales and marketing sorted out for your business, send us an email. We can book in a free 20-minute strategy session and talk about if and how we can help.
Okay, so number 1, sales process. What's your number 2?
When it comes to business, I've had a lot of mentors, and there's a lot of guys that I look up to, and it's normally the older guys, right? The guys that have been in the trenches for decades, right? There's one thing they all have in common. They talk about risk mitigation, right, as the single most important thing you can do in business. And I see marketing as risk mitigation, right? Setting up intelligent online and offline marketing systems and making sure you've got an overflow of quality inquiry coming through. That ensures that you can set your margin. You can, at a certain point, you can hold that margin and you can run your business in your terms because you can pick and choose your clients and your jobs. So you're mitigating the risk of, in a downturn, you've got overbooking the flight. Okay, so that's an example, but there's endless examples. You want to shut the back door, there's OH&S and everything else. So there's risk mitigation. The second, probably most powerful thing in business, if not the most, is your people. It's selecting the right people. And in terms of freeing up time, if you can outsource to people, to the right people, I want to emphasize to the right people. Hopefully you're setting standards pretty high. And if you are, you've got to seek out people whose standards match yours. All right. And there's a great book, we've mentioned it before on this pod, by a business coach called Dan Sullivan, the best business coach in the world. He's over in Canada. And he's an example of one of the older blokes who's just just oozes wisdom, right? The book's called Who Not How, and it's outsourcing to people who are better at doing that task than you. And that's just a phenomenal way to free up time. But there's another area as well. If you're looking at your low skill, low fun tasks, Upwork is a great platform where you can access people overseas, and they can do graphic design, copywriting, they can build lists for you, they can convert PDF documents, create Google Forms, whatever it is you need. All the documentation for the 6-step sales process can get converted over to your branding. You can change the wording if you like to suit your location, and you can get that done on Upwork for next to nothing.
Cool. So number 2 is clearly outsourcing to the right people and different types of tasks. What's up next?
The next thing, and this is another game changer, right? So we're going through all the things that have the biggest impact in your business, and it's managing client expectations. So this one's counterintuitive because, when you talk about time management, most people think about a to-do list and a weekly plan and whatever else, but they don't think about managing client expectations. So what even is that? So this is at contract signing. When you think about legalese, I mean, most of us don't understand it, which is why we've got to throw money at lawyers so they can convert whatever's written in a highly complex and just unnecessary language, okay, so that we can boil it down into layman's terms, all right? And most of them don't even do a good job of that. So the client commencement agreement is you extracting the most important parts from the build contract, and I always recommend you use your association contract. They're the most tested, so the safest ones to use. They're very balanced as well. They're more in favor of you or the client. And then explain those 12 or 13 things that you know are going to come up during the build in layman's terms. And the respect and credibility you get from that is huge. It's absolutely through the roof. So some examples are access to site, getting selections in and specifications before the job starts, making sure payments on time, when they are or should contact you, as in the client. When should the client contact you? Well, you should ideally have a proactive process for contacting the client on a weekly or fortnightly or monthly basis, and then let them know that they can't call after hours or on weekends because you and your team need to rest so you can get the site wide-eyed, bushy-tailed, so you can deliver on the promises. Variations or change orders, make sure that, again, selections are made and that they're aware that if they want to make changes after the fact, they can do it, but there's an admin fee and a variation process, and help them see what that looks like based on the job scheduling tool you use. Defects, handover, maintenance period. And it sounds crazy. You might be thinking, why on earth would you want to have a conversation about all those usually and sometimes uncomfortable things at contract signing when everyone's happy and in a good mood? Because the happiest part of the project is contract signing. Everyone's excited and about to move forward. Why would you bring up these things? What it does is inoculates against issues during the job, which frees up. I've had guys say thousands of hours. So I cannot recommend this enough. A client commencement agreement. And part of the process really is explaining to the client that you're part of the team. Okay. And in order for us to deliver on our promises to you, we need you to meet us halfway and then explain those things. And like, I've got endless stories about clients saying, hey, what you have done is 10 times better than what our lawyer did. Because it's like someone explaining the terms and conditions that we all click but don't read in terms that you can understand.
Okay, so number 3 is managing your client's expectation via this client commencement agreement.
Yes, and if you want a copy, email us, info@builderscoach.com.au. Happy to send one across to you. You spoke about planning before. 12-week planning, really, really important. I just want to preface this by saying that you need to know what you want, right? You need to have a clear vision for the business. Like, what is your area of specialty? What is the niche that you want to dominate in your area? What are you trying to achieve? What standards do you want to set for the business, for your team? Once you've got clarity around that, then you can get to work on creating a 12-week plan for your business. And 12 weeks has been proven to be the best time. 6 months, 12 months is too long for a business plan because things change so rapidly. And 1 month's a bit short. So 12 weeks is perfect. And I'll refer to it as an accountability tool because you can see the finish line 12 weeks out, and then you can see every week in the lead up to the finish line, and then you can single handle and stagger your business development projects. So your 12-week plan is all about business development. So maybe you need to overhaul your website. Maybe you're going to put in a new job scheduling tool. You need to employ a new supervisor. You just stagger those based on their priority, think it through. And we've got a reflection and review process that we do every 12 weeks. Just 14 questions that you run through, and that helps give you clarity around what goes into that 12-week plan. And then once you've got that set, yes, you may course correct along the way, but ideally you execute and find someone to help with it. So the who, not how, with the execution. Our most successful guys have people that are part of their execution plan.
Awesome. And then on a daily basis also, right? We talk about to-do lists, but there's a thing that we do personally, professionally.
Yes, you refer to stand-up meetings?
Yes.
Powerful, man. So you've worked for some big corporates.
Yes.
And the big corporates out there, like the big 4 accounting firms, the big IT companies over in Silicon Valley, they all use stand-up meetings.
So it comes from a project management methodology, and all the corporates will do it. But really, it's a useful tool. You can apply it everywhere, right? Even a personal, professional, any type of teams. You can also do just for yourself, right? So what it's about, daily stand-up.
It's so simple, it'll bring tears to your eyes. I couldn't believe how simple it was, right, when I heard it. But now that we're using it, I cannot recommend it enough. It's phenomenal. So, explain,
and it's supposed to be sharp and sweet, right? So really the principle is in the morning, first thing, and you do it ideally with your team, leadership team or the rest of the team, depending on where you're at. But you just highlight, or you'll talk through what have I done yesterday and what am I doing today. And then if there's any blockers, as in you need something from someone else, you are blocked because you can't progress for X, Y, Z, you mention it there and then. And the idea is that not only is it really good for yourself to just think through what have I achieved yesterday, what was I working on yesterday, to really identify what am I working on today. Yeah. And then if you do have blockers, you are speaking up. And then hopefully someone within that team can help you unblock these things. Okay, and ideally, you want to make sure that you tackle those blockers as soon as possible.
Yeah, so it's a great thing to do with your leadership team. So every single morning, 15 minutes, it could be face-to-face where you stand in a circle, everyone goes around, or on the phone or on WhatsApp. We do voice memos, which is great. So a voice memo gets sent with, here's what happened yesterday, here's what's happening today, here's the blockers. And in terms of its ability to give you clarity and focus, it's phenomenal. And it really trains your brain. Like, it forces you to look at what did you do yesterday? What are you going to do today? And what are the things that might be blocking you?
Yeah.
So there's accountability there, especially with your team. If there's anything that comes up and they haven't been, say there's an issue that comes up, but they weren't talking about it in the stand-up meetings, then there's nowhere to hide. It just sheds light on, the level of competence within your team. But I like how it programs your brain, because we are the most programmable creatures on the planet, right? Our brains are very programmable. So doing this every day just highlights what that critical path is for, whether it's business development or whatever else. It just keeps you so focused. And I think it's even more relevant, and this is how it sort of got brought in to the big corporates, and I know the IT companies, Silicon Valley as well, is when you've got lots on, when you've got a lot of projects on and you're trying to accomplish lots. For those of you that are scaling quickly, if you really ramping up your business development, then you want to use stand-up meetings. I'm prescribing it to our clients.
Yeah, I think it's good also because sometimes you just work on what you can work on and then you forget about the blockers, and then all of a sudden it's 1 week later and you still haven't, sent that email or spoken to this person, etc. Whereas here, every day you bring it up and you work to try to resolve it.
Look, and I'm very aware that whenever you decide, hey, I'm going to make some changes, change one is very difficult. It's painful. And then so many people go, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to improve my systems. And then as soon as you make that decision, life has a way of going, oh, really? You want to do that? I'll show you. And it starts throwing you curveballs and you just get thrown off course. And I have so many people say, like, I had all the best intentions in the world to get things done, but nothing happened. And the last 12 months have been the same as the previous 12 months. And even guys that are on our coaching program sometimes really struggle to get traction. Like, once you get traction and you start making change and you're freeing up time and money, then you get momentum, and momentum is a beautiful thing, and motivation goes through the roof. But really, you need to have a plan and then be able to manage that plan as you go. And stand-up meetings are brilliant for that.
Awesome. So that's the 12-week plan and the stand-up meetings. Any other recommendation?
Yeah, well, let's look at one. We spoke about planning your weeks and days in advance. And like, again, it sounds so simple when you talk about a to-do list. Everyone's done a to-do list. Everyone's like, yeah, I've done that. I know what that is. But the question is, do you use one every single day? Because it's no use doing it every second or third day. Most people do a to-do list the day before they go on holiday, right? Because you have to. But are you doing it every single day? Right? It's like taking your medication. If you took it every second or third day, it's not going to work, right? So do it every day. And then the next extrapolation on a to-do list, for example, is, are you prioritizing that list? Are you highlighting the top 6 things every single day? Because, if you do a to-do list for tomorrow, you've probably got 27 things on there. Easy. We all have, right? Again, you're never going to have enough time to get everything done. So what's the solution? You prioritize. So pick the top 6. And then we spoke about single handling, right? Now, within that, the one thing that you picked, you go to top 6, which one are you going to do first?
The biggest one. The hardest one, right?
Yes, the most difficult, painful, the thing that makes you cringe and pull back. Maybe you've got to fire someone on your team, and that person is someone you went to school with and is a friend. Maybe you're business with friends or family, right? And I mean, it's just like, oh my God, I'm going to have that conversation. Or there's someone that owes you money and you got to phone them and you know them. Or just think of the painful thing that often just gets pushed aside and you make excuses for why you're not going to do that, right? We've all done that. So I can tell you now, and this has been proven, there's a lot of research and science behind this. If you do that difficult thing, lean in, walk towards the pain and the difficulty and the frustration, the motivation and drive you get from that is off the chart.
Yeah.
Okay, so what it does is it just sets you up. If you eat that frog in the morning, and that concept comes from, if you had to eat a frog every morning or every day, if you had to do it, you might as well get it over with in the morning. Okay. Once that difficult thing is done, everything else is going to seem easy. And again, there's research to show that it has a massive impact, as does stand-up meetings. It seems like such a little thing. And these are little things, by the way, guys, that little easy things to do are also easy not to do. I found that to be true. So just having that discipline to consistently execute on these little things. Look, if you're not doing it already, like a to-do list, if you're not doing it every single day and you start doing it, it'll change your life. If you're not using stand-up meetings and you start using them, it'll change your life. I don't say that lightly. Like, test and measure for yourself.
So do your to-do list.
Yes.
Have your daily stand-up meeting with your team, and then eat that frog.
Yeah.
Every single morning.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'll prescribe all those things.
Any other tips?
Yes. Well, look, these other areas. And interestingly enough, just 2 days ago, I had a conversation with one of my builders where they were talking about how they've got someone to do the cleaning, the pool, maintenance, and the gardening.
Yeah.
Which, hopefully you're not doing those things yourself. But, if you are, you should really consider getting someone to do it. And they were saying how when they come home now and the house is clean, and you could even get someone to cook food. We've had someone do that for us, or they cook your meals, and it's liberating, and it impacts your psychology, right? How you feel about your environment. Just coming home to a beautiful, clean home, especially after a stressful day, it does impact. As the opposite does, you come home to a mess, and it's going to make you feel so much worse.
Yeah. Delegating.
Absolutely.
I wanted to touch on something else because I hear you talk a lot about value management. Can we explain to us exactly what does that mean? So
I was talking about that before, about aligning clients and architects' build cost expectations with reality, and a builder coming in earlier in the piece to help ensure that the client's budget aligns with reality, basically, because everyone is getting sticker shock or price shock from the final number. So I have builders doing a quote and they get the number, they go, oh my God, that's more than I expected. They second guess themselves. They're thinking maybe I made a mistake. But not only that, I've got estimators, some of the best estimators that I know of in the country, in the world, and they are doing, quotes and getting to the final number and going, have I made a mistake? So if that's happened to them, how on earth does a designer, an architect, an engineer, even a quantity surveyor who gets a bill of quantities, they do not know the alternatives to a build process or different materials within a particular niche that you as a builder know. So the value that you bring by looking at a project pre-construction and early on at a concept stage is one that only you can bring. It's value that only you can bring. So there's a huge opportunity now. There's always been issues with quotes not being accurate or trying to align the budget or the expectations with reality. But right now, it's a bigger issue than ever before by far and away. So again, therein lies the opportunity. If you can come in and value manage, help look at alternatives at the structure stage, and ideally pre-engineering, and then after that as well with selections and fittings and different processes, just to help a client match a budget. Like, what's that worth versus them spending 12 months, 50 or 60 grand, only to find out they can't proceed at all. That's happening every day of the week. Okay, I think that's what we have time for. So value management, time management, but really self-management. That's what we discussed today. Yes. Any updates on your upcoming events? Yes, very excited about Perth, Friday, the 20th of September. You don't have to be from Perth to join us. Come and see beautiful Western Australia. That's going to be a phenomenal event. We're going to be covering off the value management in detail, plus some more time management strategies. I'm going to be workshopping with other builders so you can interact with like-minded people and see what they're doing to achieve success in their business. Sydney, 18th of October, watch the space. That's going to be a new event. Melbourne, 1st of November. And then we've got another development workshop coming up before the end of the year. Again, watch the space. Thanks for joining us. Catch you guys soon. Thank you. Bye.